I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. All right, what's up, world? Welcome, good morning, and welcome to another edition of I Mix What I Like live right here in Black Power Media. Again, I'm Jared Ball, happy to be your host. I hope welcome to another. Okay, I hope everything is okay, coming in loud and clear. Okay, we got a little bit of a different setup here. Anyway, good morning, everybody. A couple of things before we get started. Of course, we wanted to get used to again broadcasting at this time because in just a couple of weeks we are going to be doing, of course, the launch of the Remix Morning Show. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern, starting April 6th is at least the plan as it stands right now. Very excited about that. So want to get used to, getting everybody situated to be on air and here during this time. So again, good morning. Even though this is Friday, I get that. I get that. And speaking of which, so because that this is Friday, we all know that later on tonight, 5 p.m. Eastern time, we get Luke Nation. And then 7 o'clock Eastern, episode 7 of The Last Dope Intellectual. And I don't know if Dr. CBS has revealed her guest this week, so I'm not going to. But it's just fire and incredible. It was a pleasure to witness and to help edit even. So you don't want to miss that. So 7 o'clock Eastern. What else? Big shout out to Got Kush TV. And we'll put the link if you haven't, or if you aren't already subscribed. They have a pretty big following and a very nicely produced show. I had the pleasure of being a guest there. Shout out to the African diaspora over there in the UK at Got Kush TV. It was a great discussion about Judas and the Black Messiah, which actually is a perfect segue to what I want to do today, because and definitely shout out Underground Thomas. Good morning to you as well. And to all others who are coming through, good morning, good morning, good morning. Of course, Sugar Booger, The Last Dope Intellectual, is something to love. Of course, you should of course love that show, and of course its host, Dr. Sharice Burden-Stelly. And she put in another banger this week. I mean, I have to say, obviously I'm biased, of course, but the show was off the hook, and I can't wait for you all to see it. Again, that's 7 o'clock Eastern tonight. While you're all here, please do like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and consider becoming a member. Everything helps, and we are ever expanding. We had our first full team meeting the other day, and it was great. And there's a lot of excitement and a lot of energy and a lot more coming on board. So we are, excited and want to hurry, but at the same time, we're trying to, measure all of that. But we definitely want to get the likes and the subscribers and the membership up, because it helps everything. It helps obviously generate revenue that we can then distribute, which we have this wonderful distributive model that will help us not only demonstrate the politics of the channel, really, but do more to bring more people in and to improve the quality, at least the aesthetics. I think the content we have already down pretty well, but we can improve on that too. But the aesthetics and everything, and all of that we'd like to do, and really more, to one of the main points of interest is real and grassroots guerrilla journalism, which we need much more of all throughout the world and diaspora. So definitely consider showing your support. If you can't do financial and not ready to commit at that level yet, please just like, share, and subscribe, and encourage people to do the same. So I mentioned that I was on Got Kush TV the other day talking about with them the film Judas and the Black Messiah, and one of the points of disagreement that usually comes up around, where I stand on with the Vernon philosophy of Black media avoidance and commercial media, and increasingly looking at it really as I think it's intended as psychological warfare. There is always this pushback or tendency to resist, which I understand. I mean, it makes sense in many ways. That, as we've discussed here, but we can make use of it, and now we can use it, and we all tend to want to say, whatever the product is, now we can make it a tool for us, and we can. And that is, while that is very true, one of the points that I keep wanting to come back to and keep wanting to remind us of and be reminded of is that as much as we are using it, so are so many others for so many other reasons. Which brings me to the discussion today, because just I think it was not long after I went off of that, I got a Google alert telling me that my name had been brought up in an article in The Hill, in an article written by or co-written by Marc Morial and John Jackson of the National Urban League. So when I saw that, I said, honestly, I thought, given what I've said publicly about the Urban League's State of America reports, both in terms of my use of it positively and my criticism of it, and even at one point when sort of serving as a journalist, quote unquote, professionally for the Atlanta Black Star. In fact, I think it was Kamal that brought me on to do that. I think he was the one running that thing. I think that's how I ended up there. I'm almost sure of that. Anyway. But I had actually, and this is actually kind of funny, because at the time, before this full switch with the hashtag, I had actually, this is where I contributed to, I think, to some of the madness. On some small level, I interviewed the two founders of the hashtag because they were correctly being critical at the time of the economic analysis coming out of the Urban League and Marc Morial's work. So I had reached out to Morial's office to get his comment, and they, gave me a sort of statement for the piece, defending what they were doing. But the point I'm getting at is that for whatever value there, I think there still is in the State of Black America reports that come out of the Urban League, which summarize the horrific economic condition of Black America. It's the problem comes in is with the solutions and the analysis or the interpretation of it, and then what to do about it. So I thought it was interesting when I saw my name come up in this Google alert related to this article, because I thought, okay, finally, almost a year since the Myth and Propaganda of Black Buying Power was published, I'm finally going to get a public, on the record critique, because I just assumed that would have to be why they were referencing me. Why else would they bring me up in this piece about the state of Black America? Shout out to Roberto Duran. Roberto Duran, you know what I'm saying? Hands of stone, and little puppy acts just like his namesake. Anyway, Paul Kemp, thank you. Shout out to the Renegade Culture crew who got the BPM logo together. So appreciate that. Thank you, Sugar Booger, for becoming a member. Appreciate that. Want to encourage others to do the same. Definitely want to shout that out. Appreciate you. Right on. Okay, you found it. Okay, I see you were asking, where do you become a member? Yeah. The join button. Uh-oh, I think I'm lagging. Uh-oh, here we go. Hold on a second. Let me double check the settings. Let me double check the settings. Anyway, so yeah, please consider joining Sugar Booger 7. We appreciate that, and even the consideration. It's going to, you'll see very clearly it's going to help the crew, what's happening in terms of the crew that membership is going to help. Not again with the lag or with the blurry. Oh man, I don't know what, maybe it is the early morning thing. Maybe you have to do something else to boost this if we're going to be doing this remix morning show. Because we can't, but this was happening. I don't understand why either. The internet is strong and perfect around here and prioritized and everything. So, you know, what else could it be? I mean, we have, you know, all right. Okay. Anyway, so anyway, when I saw, I did, and I thought honestly, I was going to get my first on the record criticism, and it, you know, as confident and as proud as I am of the work, I do know that there is area for criticism, and certainly where people disagree politically, they would want to maybe point out some, I don't know, to try to point out some way to be critical. But when I read the piece, I said, oh my goodness, I think I got. I think I got. So I thought, well, since, oh, by the way, we had to reschedule Norda Erakat, who is going to come on to talk with us about Black and Palestinian solidarity. We had to reschedule her for Monday. So I thought, well, then, you know, why not? Let's talk about this with the Black Power Media crew while we have some time in the morning as we get set for the remix morning show stuff. So with our, as I like to say, relatively small, although I'm very happy with the size of our audience that is continuing to grow, and please continue to help it. We have a very thoughtful audience. That's the most important part. So, especially for the most part. Oh, by the way, we have one of the things that came out of that meeting with the BPM crew is that we are going to start inviting trusted, certainly members of the audience to become chat moderators. We have noticed and wanted to respond to some of the criticism from the BPM crew and community that we don't want to have. We are going to take a very hard line to people coming into these spaces trying to muddy the waters and upset the setup. Shout out to Peace, Justice, Universal. But disrupt what we're trying to do here. We're not here for that. We are here for principled discussion and debate and disagreement. Even all of us on the platform don't certainly agree on every single thing, and we're open to that. But when it comes to the hostility and certainly the threats and the you know, all of the just clearly not about trying to build, they will be blocked and kicked out pretty quickly from here on out. And we're inviting folks to become moderators of the chat who would like to help perform that duty. We've learned now how to set that up. Anyway, but all good so far this morning, of course, you know, so as is usual, but it's just, you know, one or two that we have to, you know, be mindful of. Anyway, so I go to this piece and let's just bring it up here, and you all can certainly help me walk through this, because this is the story here that came out just yesterday, because I was wondering, I was going to say I just got the alert. And let's see if just make it as you know, get as much of it on the screen as possible. So you see here, the piece came out in The Hill yesterday. That is March 18th, 2021. The Black-white wealth gap is widening. A racial equity stimulus can narrow it. All right. So already I noticed there's problems with the title, for me, at least with the title. Following people like Diedrich Muhammad, I already agree that we need to move past this wealth gap. His preferred word is divide. I might even want to say we need to move beyond that as well, because these aren't gaps and divides in the sense that they are meant or really genuinely meant to be closed. They exist as a natural, predictable, preferred outcome of our economic and social system. So that's one thing that I noticed. And then I said a racial equity stimulus can narrow it. And I said, wow, that's really interesting. All right, that's a good start. By the way, I thought, are they going towards the reparations conversation? Are they going to take a position on reparations? And at least in this piece, I don't know actually if the Urban League has or hasn't, but or what version of reparations they would have gone for. But and then I was thinking because also yesterday or yeah, was it yesterday or Wednesday? I can't remember what day. Within the last couple of days, I taped a segment with Dr. Barbara Ransby on Mark Lamont Hill's Upfront show on Al Jazeera. I don't know when it'll come out. And actually, what I'd like to do is when it comes out, I'd like to do like a live viewing of it with all of you, because I think it was very interesting, and there was so much that wasn't said, and so much I would have liked to say that I didn't say. So it would be great to have a conversation with all of you. So I think that's what we'll try to do when it comes out. So I thought maybe this is where they're going with it. So I said, okay, let me, obviously let's read it. So as they start here, even before the deadly COVID-19 pandemic swept America, the black-white wealth gap remained stubbornly vast. The crisis is driving the gap to historic levels. Certainly the recent so that was it. Now this is the paragraph where I said, okay, here we go. I said, because there is a context that I'll bring up in a few minutes, and that I think all of us are pretty well aware of. But this is where I started to get, okay. Certainly, the recently passed $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan is a watershed moment. That such legislation has become law, that our federal government acted decisively with a bill targeted to aid low and middle income families, evokes equal parts inspiration and relief in its radical departure from previous trickle-down approaches that have increased inequality and racial injustice. This is nonsense, frankly. This is nonsense. And maybe, we should much, I think many of us should do much more discussion just on this claim. But this is really the context that they're drawing here, that is being drawn across commercial platforms, across Democratic Party, mainstream party loyalist pundits, that the Biden stimulus package, the American Rescue Plan, is a watershed, is radical, is slashing child poverty, is all of these things, when in reality, it's not doing any of that. I mean, the idea that a $1,400 check to some people, some unemployment insurance benefits, a few other payouts that are going to help a few people, to suggest that that's going to slash child poverty or make a dent in inequality on any level is absurd. Meanwhile, they didn't give the $15 minimum wage, which itself is insufficient, and which itself was not going to take effect for 4 or 5 years anyway, or 3 to 4 years anyway. But instead of passing that, instead of offering that, they give nothing, less than nothing, and want to rebrand that as some watershed radical departure from trickle down approaches. I mean, so I said, okay, here we go. That's what I said. The rescue plan is a desperately needed life preserver for countless Americans. But what does it mean to be pulled from treacherous waters onto a leaking ship? See, now this is sort of the point I was getting at and continue to get at about the Judas film and other pop culture commercial media product. We are at a point of sophistication with propaganda and psychological warfare, with a new digital media environment that exists parallel with increasing material inequality, of where the problems we are faced with are not omitted or marginalized to the extent that they were in the past. They are brought on to the center stage and given representative, symbolic representation, reframing, rebranding. so as to sort of siphon off, redirect the righteous anger that exists in the streets and in Black communities and brown and many in all communities. That the attempt is to push that anger into more acceptable directions, ultimately politically, that to just blind support for whatever Democratic Party representative gets elected. That's I think the ultimate purpose here. This is why, if you've been paying attention and seen it, maybe you've seen more than I have. AOC is doing these streams, and all the squad are talking about, they're claiming victory while they're all of this stuff. I mean, it's absolutely absurd. And this, I think, is part and parcel of it, but again, directed specifically at a Black audience, or a segment of the white audience that wants to read or is willing to hear discussions of Black issues. So as they say here, as the Washington Post reported in June 2020, in 1968, a typical middle-class Black household had $6,674 in wealth, compared to $70,786 for the typical middle-class white household. In a stark illustration of how little progress has been made, the same Post article cited data from the Historical Survey of Consumer Finances, indicating that in 2016, the typical middle-class Black family had $13,024 in wealth, compared to white families who had $149,703. So again, although it could be described in more stark and horrific terms, the so-called mainstream have no problem recounting for us facts we all are either living or studying or aware of on a regular basis. That's not the point so much. The point is, how then do you reframe that or suggest response to that in ways that don't threaten actual change or power, but make sure and manage the anger and response from below. So as they say here, we need bold policies to change this trajectory. Who would disagree with that sentence? By the way, not even half folks watching have hit the like button. Please hit the like button and the share and subscribe button. Anyway, since stimulus packages have long been effective tools to catalyze progress, spur growth, and reinvigorate the economy, now is the time for a multi-year $10 to $12 trillion racial equity stimulus package that is laser focused on repairing harm from decades of redlining, denying capital to African-American business owners, steering Black borrowers into predatory loan products, underinvestment in school systems, serving Black and brown children, and criminalization of Black and brown bodies in schools and communities. A stimulus designed specifically to redress the damage brought about by structural racism in American institutions and public policy. That even sounds, I think, in some ways strong, relatively strong. We need bold policies, a $10 to $12 trillion racial equity stimulus package that is laser focused on repairing harm from decades, so on and so on and so on. Of course, it is interesting that right after redlining and home ownership comes denying capital to African-American business owners, which is, I think, really what is ultimately desired here. By the way, as I do mention and talk about, at least briefly, in the Buying Power book, this itself mimics an already old school 60s, 70s style version of Black, and by conservative, I don't mean this necessarily in a derogatory sense that it's often used by people like me, but I mean, but in the sense that certainly relative to revolutionaries and radicals and progressives, but just solidly mainstream, sort of middle of the road conservative, proud and happy to be Black members of the community. They went to the Nixon administration pre and during his pre and post his election to say, use the government stimulus ability to stimulate Black businesses, which will trickle down and stimulate the rest of the community. All right, so this is in some ways still mimicking all of that. Then they continue and they do the same thing again. They come right back to it. It's almost they begin with the hard charging, almost black and strong and radical call for we need bold change. Sneak in there that they're really looking for money for black businesses primarily. I mean, we can, trying to get money to black borrowers that aren't predatory loans. So I'm assuming that black financial institutions like black banks would perform these loans. That's how I would interpret this. Underinvestment in school systems. I would hope that's not this underground push for more black charter schools, privatization of schools. I don't know. And criminalization of black and brown bodies in schools and communities. So I'm not entirely sure what the Urban League's interests here and all of that. These are links to just Washington Post stories. So they're just recounting the sort of mainstream liberal framing of these problems. So they're not. So anyway. But then they come right back and they come right back with, again, what appears to be hard-hitting critical analysis. According to the Economic Policy Institute 2017 research report, average wealth for white families is 7 times higher than average wealth for black families. Worse still, median white wealth for the family in the exact middle of the overall distribution, wealthier than half of all families and less wealthy than half, is 12 times higher than median black wealth. These raw differences persist and are growing even after taking age, household structure, education level, income, or occupation into account. Then I said, wow, so okay. We know that the black-white wealth gap is not a matter of black people's lack of talent or intellect. See, this is how they got me. This is it. Oh man, is everything cool over? Yeah, okay. Nobody's all right. Yeah, just making sure. All right, thought I saw something silly. Okay. We know that the black-white wealth gap is not a matter of black people's lack of talent or intellect. It is a function of structural racism and public policy. It is not, as Dr. Jared Ball routinely cautions, a matter of black people consuming too much or making poor choices with their resources. Black people have been intentionally locked out of wealth creation. For decades, de jure and de facto segregation and racial animus meant that black people could not find good paying jobs, purchase homes in certain neighborhoods, access relief packages, etc. So they bring me into the discussion in support of their argument around what should be done to close, as they describe it, the black-white wealth gap. So I click on the link, and where does the link take you? It takes you to a discussion I had with the good people at Shop Black. Last year. Not to a link to the book, which I'm wondering what is happening here. Did they read the book? Did they not read the book? It seems like they didn't read the book. And then they picked this one particular outlet, which I found curious given all the interviews that I've done over the last year around the book. I think because of the Shop Black channel, which now, I mean, the discussion was great. I was not, I was warmly welcomed. We had a good time. It was a wonderful conversation. But the purpose of the channel, Shop Black, and I have no problem, is more about promoting Black business ownership. It's not a Black left site. It's not oh, you know what? That's why. My bad. My bad. My bad. My bad. I'm not sharing the right. It didn't follow me. I forgot that it didn't follow me. Sorry about that. I wanted it to follow me here. Yeah. Because again, I mean, I invite you to check the content. I mean, we had, it's not horrible content, Oh, I didn't see the one with Kim Fields. Shout out to Kim Fields. Childhood memories. Tootie. Right, Tootie, right? Yeah. Actress Kim Fields has a new role, owner of a coffee. So that's what I'm saying. They're a black business ownership outlet. That's their focus. Now, they were kind enough to give me a warm welcome on to talk about my argument, and certainly my argument is not anti-black business. It's just anti-black business will save us. But that's why that's why I'm assuming that was the version of my argument that they found most suitable and worthy of incorporating. So honestly, I don't, I don't want to, I mean, part of the hesitation is sort of feeling like that anybody would put this kind of effort into doing something intentionally nefarious in this manner. But so maybe it's just an accident. Maybe they just came across the argument and or that one video. So maybe when they say routinely, they were just being polite because it was clear that that wasn't my first interview and I was talking about a book. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Or is there really an intent here to say there is recognition that the argument is out there, and here is a way that a more liberal interpretation can be put on that argument and safely incorporated? Because the argument that I'm making certainly doesn't suggest is certainly is not, while it recounts the historical example, as I just mentioned, of a black sort of conservative or whatever mainstream business class going to the federal government and saying we need a stimulus package targeted to black businesses. That it wasn't certainly saying that I was in favor of that. I certainly didn't argue that is the solution to the problem. I certainly didn't suggest that, as is the case with the Urban League, that putting out State of America reports, as is the case with their most recent one, that is, I mean, we can come back to that in just a minute. Let me just finish with this here, but because in terms of who is working with the Urban League and what politics are they supporting? Obviously, we've seen, Marc Morial speaking with, he was on those select panels talking to Biden and Kamala Harris, and, praising their election and laying out requests for redress for black people that are clearly that are not coming from this administration or even the certainly currently constructed, but if at all, the Democratic Party. But we'll come back to that in just a minute. The harm has been, as they say here, so deep that it is impossible to wish, read, or pray it away. There must be a targeted economic stimulus for black, brown, and tribal communities, coupled with public policies intentionally written to measurably reverse decades of race-based damage and disparities. I mean, who could disagree with that? Again, they keep coming in with this strong language, but again, I think directing us away from strong potential solutions or ways of getting to those solutions. For more than 4 decades, the National Urban League has highlighted these consistent disparities in the state of Black America reports. Maybe we should read that again, because I don't know that necessarily should be taken as praiseworthy, that for 4 decades you've been putting out these reports and returning right back to the same apparatus with the same basic calls and claims, with the same sort of supported political and social movements outside of those efforts, which is why we're still back here doing this. Recently, the Schott Foundation's Loving Cities Index documented the disparities of infrastructure and supports in more than 20 cities that children and families need to have an opportunity to thrive. In response to the COVID pandemic, Congress recently passed $900 billion relief package. Again, coming back, $900 billion. And President Biden just signed a much needed $1.9 trillion stimulus. The vital resources should be provided, but we also can't ignore the other pandemic that has ravaged American people, families, and communities for centuries: structural racism. We cannot assume that a stimulus targeted to sustain the nation during COVID will also flatten the curve of America's wealth gap. Of course we can't, because the stimulus isn't even going to sustain a nation during COVID. You know, other countries have been getting hundreds of like everybody else around the world. Even the poorest countries are giving their citizens monthly checks, and have been for almost a year now. To close the racial wealth gap, we must deploy an infusion of resources, support retirement for workers, expand access to equitable, so on and so on and so on and so on. The McKinsey report, okay, more and more, just the same, the same horrid. You know what they don't have in here, by the way? But well, what they do have here is a point I make in the book, that the point of boosting Black, that even the extent to which the inequality has gotten in this country was hurting the overall gross domestic product. And as I say here, that closing the gap between Black and white inequality would boost the gross domestic product by 4 to 6% by 2028. So maybe they did read my book, because that very stat, I believe, is in there. The effect of narrowing the wealth gap between Black and white Americans from this 2016 level, optimistically assuming that Black wealth grows faster than white wealth, would add $1 trillion to the 2028 economy. But what they don't have in here, is, by the way, is that it's also been shown that well, anyway, let me come back to that too. Many sources reinforce that making strides in racial justice in every area of our lives actually improves the GDP. In the national report, the W.K. Kellogg Foundation and Alterum offered even more optimistic figures. The United States economy could be $8 trillion larger by 2050 if the country eliminated racial disparities in health, education, incarceration, and employment, according to the Business Case for Racial Equality, a Strategy for Growth. The gains would be equivalent to continuous boost in GDP growth of 0.5%, increasing the competitiveness. And in that study that I contributed research to, that is still I don't know when I thought it would have been out already. I don't know when it's coming out. This is one of the points that is raised there as well, that Black businesses would benefit from a national or universal health care plan, but this is not part of the call here, at least. Which is what I find interesting, and why, as people want to condemn, the inequality and chase after the Democratic Party, that why they don't make this part of the platform, and saying, in other words, if you actually had pushed for Medicare for all, and therefore make it unnecessary for businesses to pay for the health care of their employees, Black businesses, which barely have any employees and the ability to expand, would be able to expand and do better. But that's not being advocated here. Clearly, closing the racial wealth gap holds advantages for Black, brown, and tribal communities, as well as the broader community, is imperative. Okay. All right. But this is, again, this is the problem that I find myself confronted with, in terms of not only my broader argument, but in this case, my own, the corruption of my own argument, the co-optation of my own argument, in a publication, by the way, that hasn't covered my book, hasn't interviewed me about the book. By the way, I think this is just very interesting. But what I think is okay, so this was what I wanted to get to very quickly, at least. There's so many little gems that really do need to be parsed out, like the business case for racial equality. Um, State of Black America. And then I do want to, let's stop, because I do want to let's see, National Urban League. Yeah. Please don't leave this yeah, good. Okay, because what I just wanted to quickly show you is, if any of you aren't already aware of this, that this is sort of what this is kind of going back to the point I'm getting at, that we are at a point now in the sophisticated nature of our propagandized media environment where these sort of biggest problems can't be ignored. They're too big to omit. So they just have to be carefully repackaged and explained in ways where, again, that righteous anger will be corralled safely, ultimately back to the Democratic Party. So this is the sort of matrix, or the compendium of ideas, or the sources of these ideas, and not in terms of assessing or acknowledging the problem. They're not doing the economic analysis. They are just reading the report. Neither am I. They're reading the same reports that I am. It look like they're literally referring to the same ones. But it's the response that they are offering, and of course, it's coming from people like Van Jones, where mainstream commercial spokesperson. John Stankey, chief executive officer of AT&T, one of the dominant conglomerates, surveilling us, selling our data, controlling our communicative environment. Perhaps my favorite, Timothy Murphy, the general counsel for MasterCard, a credit card, banking outfit. So my point is, this is sort of this where the responses to the problems are coming from. And then if we if you look at the partners, and this list has shrunk over the years, it's included Wells Fargo and McDonald's and whoever else. Now it seems down to just AT&T and Geico. And then if you look at some of the authors of the solutions coming out of the Wharton School. It's very. And then where was the page where you see? Where did I? Okay. Anyway, there was in report. Let's see. Was it in a previous edition? Was it the 2019 edition? Let's see, because there was, anyway, because in one of the reports, you see that it's one of the contributors was Nancy Pelosi, in terms of the partners or the respondents or something like that. So my point is, the very Democratic Party apparatus that is saying, no, we're not going to give you a $15 minimum wage, and no, we're not going to, yes, we're going to give you, if you get us elected, we'll give you $2,000, but no, it's really going to be $1,400, and no, it's not going to include the $15 minimum wage, but it is still, watershed and radical. That's where their solutions are. And it doesn't matter. I don't need to find that. So again, in the context of trying to manage the response to the non-solutions and the propaganda around the COVID relief bill, we get this sort of version of an explanation that incorporates a critique that I'm developing to explain why commercial presses, Black commercial presses included, Black mainstream elite well-placed punditry help disseminate help proliferate reports, disseminate reports, falsely perform journalism around reports that claim Black people have this buying power strength that could be used where they're better financial literacy instead, and then saying to attract corporate ad revenue. Instead of dealing with any of that, they simply say, well, but Jared Ball also says that Black people aren't poor because of their own poor choices. Correct. But instead of going to his solutions, which include a redistribution of the GDP, which include many more radical formations and include, especially nowadays, I think it's even better. I think we should be arguing. I think when Michael Hudson and Steve Grumbine and other economists like that say that the practical response for them, or the radical response for them, is a debt jubilee, cancellation of debt, that's actually what I think we should be advocating, even better than my own buying power solution argument. As a standard sort of baseline practical, it's not revolutionary, practical debt jubilee. Everybody's debt is canceled. Every form of debt, just debt canceled. Worry about incomes and payouts later, because what they're really advocating for in these urban league and business solution formations is infusion to Black businesses, which then they mythologize into being capable of taking care of the Black community through hiring and so on and so on. Infusion into Black banks, that same old sort of tired argument that I took on, that Marisa Baradaran took on, even better, that Earl Ofari Hutchinson had already destroyed long ago. That, of course, any sort of thoughtful, what is often described as radical revolutionary criticism, acknowledges that this is not the pathway. That infusion of business and even cash payouts, this is not the solution. As George Jackson said, they'll give you more money and then they inflate the prices, making the money that you have that much more meaningless. And this is again the point that I've been trying to argue, that the propaganda has to come in to close the gap between the material, the actual material reality and lived experience, and then the explanations that come from this. And this is why the Squad supported Nancy Pelosi. This is why Nancy Pelosi and the Democratic Party didn't push for any radical redistribution when they had the chance. They're not doing it now. And then here come the Black political punditry elite class coming back to explain to their Black audiences that now that we helped get Biden in, here's a new agenda thing that can be pushed. And to their target audience, it sounds radical. It sounds progressive. It sounds thoughtful. It sounds, and then you can grab, and this is sort of where I'll wrap up here, but to go back where I started, this is where I keep saying we have to be better organized and be more mindful of how others will use what we are considering to use as tools. I mean, here I am personally, I wrote a book specifically targeted to Black communities to use to improve and then better organize around the actual economic relationship and social relationship we have to the society. And here comes the same very class of politicians and Black spokespeople and elite civil rights organizational leaders to incorporate that argument in defense of their own position, which I am criticizing in my book, in my work, as producing part of the problem. And here they are using it to project themselves as offering a legit and radical progressive solution. I mean, it's pretty frustrating. And that's sort of the point I'm trying to get at about these commercial products and films. And what I was saying in the conversation with Got Kush TV, shout out to them again, and everybody else around the Judas and whatever other film we're talking about, that we can keep saying we can use it as a tool, but obviously they are too. They are too. The Judas film nobody was designing the Judas film to have a radical impact on their community. Certainly not in the way I thought I was trying to design my own buying power argument. And both of us are failing. I would argue we both failed. And this is, to me, a certain, and I don't mean that in a overly self-critical way. I mean, failure, we all got to try. But my point is, it is not over whatever fantasies I've had about my own impact. This is just one example clearly of how that impact can be mitigated very easily. And then they link to the Shop Black discussion and promote more Black buying and Black business ownership as while in the process of putting out a pitch for trillions of dollars to be annually given to Black business owners, not to Black people. And that's why I'm saying it'd be more, it's almost like for a so-called political leader or politician, the more honest platform is something like a debt jubilee. Because if you're saying, I'm not asking for money for me or for my business buddies, in fact, I'm asking for the money you owe my business buddies to be wiped out and the money that they owe to their creditors to be wiped out. That's where we should be. We should not keep getting distracted with we can use our buying power better or get us a stimulus package or give us some money or cut the check or anything, whatever. I think that the debt jubilee should be put at the top of the list. Let's get rid of all the debt, because then whatever income you do come by will be far more meaningful. If you give me just me, and by no means near the worst off in condition, but if you give me even what would be relative to my income, that $1,400 is to maybe some those who actually really need that to survive, it would not change. It would not make any meaningful change to my economic condition, especially given the debt that I have. Now, if you wipe out my debt and give me even half that in a check, I'm way better off. I'm way better off. And then, by the way, if we have national health care like these other countries that are also giving their citizens checks, then we're even better. And by the way, that helps Black businesses and helps the overall GDP. So anyway, so I appreciate all of you coming through. I'll let me see if I can find if anybody has any comments or questions, queries, conundrums, catechisms, cacophony. I'll see if I can grab a few and respond. But that was really what I just wanted to share. I said, wow, I said, dag. Again, I thought I was going to get my first public criticism, which as folks say these days, I'm here for. But I can't even get that. I've even asked some of your favorite academic blog sites, Black academic blogs, to review the book, and it wasn't even seen by them as being worthy of review. So I was looking forward to it, but no, it wasn't a critique at all. It was a positive reference that rebrands and further confuses my argument. Anyway, shout out to Tafari, brother. Good to see you. As always, good to catch up with you the other day. And please do as he says and smash that like button. We're barely at half have done so who are watching now. I'm trying. I'm trying to come up with some pragmatic policies, and honestly, some of it is, I will admit, I mean, I think they are legit in work as a tactic, but some of it is just petty because I'm tired for years when people say, well, what do you want to do? And I say, well, we should organize and have, a real, militant, revolutionary, change effort here. Oh no, that's too much, man. That's too much. You talking crazy. That's that wild eye, that's all that. And the older folks would be like, oh, that's because you don't appreciate real struggle, and you weren't into this and that. You didn't know what this and that. First of all, people don't even make all kinds of assumptions what people have and have not experienced in their life, so whatever. And then they blow up their own, but whatever. But let's say I haven't. Let's say I've lived the perfect, pristine life. Why? What about that makes revolutionary politics wrong? I don't know. So I don't know what that has to do with anything, but that's often the response. So it'd be, well, then would you, so you just want, you don't, so I'm saying, all right, fine. Then we don't have to do all that. Let's something just like that. Debt jubilee. I even like the way that sounds. Debt jubilee sounds like a party. Sounds like some carnival, or, you know what I'm saying? Some, whatchamacallit, down there in New Orleans. Mardi Gras type thing. You know what I mean? It sounds like, debt jubilee. Wake up tomorrow, the house, student loan debt, credit card debt, car debt. What else is there? Name it. All your debt gone. Woof, woof. Then even if you only still had that same $20 in your bank account, that's a whole lot more money now. So yeah, anyway, I am trying to come up with just some, and then it just further exposes the contradiction and the fraudulence in those who are trying to defend against it, because they keep, as if you're paying attention with the squad and all of them, and they just keep walking back and back and back and back and back and back and back. Anyway, yeah, so black business owners are people. We don't own big business. Start a business takes 5 minutes. Sure. I have no problem with that. I have no qualms with that. But no mayhem, you should like and subscribe to this channel and come back around, because if all of this content that we've put out so far doesn't do it, when this next report is finally released, which I'm actually looking at right now, but I'm just a contributor. When it comes out, it addresses many of these concerns and what I think are some misunderstandings, even in this comment. Yes, you can start a business very quickly. Yes, but more black businesses will not solve these problems. And again, the favorite stat, the one I just keep throwing out, and there's so many more in this report, I can't wait to really go through it with everybody when it comes out, but is that from 1992 to 2012, black people started more than 2 million businesses and only captured 0.3% more of the national revenue. I see I'm slowing down again on the internet. I don't know what's going on. In other words, from 1992 to 2012, black people created more than 2 million businesses and went from capturing 1% of the national revenue to 1.3%. The issue is not business creation. The issue is wealth redistribution. And that's what these kinds of reports and rebrandings of my work and other arguments and the economic data that I think that they're building from, and I'm really hoping the lag slows down, it goes away here. There we go. I think it's coming back. The rebranding that these sort of reports do. Oh man, what is happening? The internet's leads back to this kind of confusion. So, platform based on your book, what it might look like develop. What's up, brother Marco? I appreciate you coming through. I don't know exactly what you mean by that, but I'm happy to talk more about that. And hopefully I'll have an internet that is functional so we can have that conversation, because I don't know what is going on, because as you look over here on the thing, it says it's working perfectly. Anyway, that's all right. I'm about to wrap up anyway. I just wanted to, I basically covered what I wanted to cover. And so, you know what? So I'll just wrap up here by thanking you all for coming through, reminding everybody and requesting that everybody like, share, and subscribe, and consider joining to become a BPM member and support our expanding channel here. And maybe some new internet. And stay tuned. There's a lot more coming up on the channel here today with Lukamon Nation at 5 o'clock Eastern, 5 p.m. Eastern. And of course, the release of episode 7 of The Last Dope Intellectual with Dr. Sharice Burden-Stelly. At 7 o'clock, as I said, that comes out. And let's see, will Blacklash continue? Yeah, well, yes. Yeah, Blacklash, we just don't monetize that. So, but it will be, I believe it will still be on the channel. I'm not entirely sure what we're going to do about that, to be honest. We have to figure something out about that. But at the Crowdcast site, all of the Blacklash stuff is there. So you can definitely go check that out. And hopefully your internet is functioning better than mine, even though despite mine saying it's working perfectly. I don't know what the situation is. Prioritize to this device, looking fine, rolling fast. So I feel like this is a StreamYard thing. That's what I think. Black LL, I'm not even putting that on the screen. That's ridiculous. That's funny. Yeah, so that's part of the problem, Black capitalism. So as my book argues, and many others, well, not enough maybe, but others argue, Black capitalism is not the solution. Black capitalism is the propagandized, encouraged response the state prefers that we follow. Because it understands that can never lead anywhere. So I document that in the Buying Power book. Please go to imixwhatilike.org and you can download the free copy. You don't even have to pay for it. And get updated on that for sure. Anyway, check out The Last Dope Intellectual later today. Check out Lukamon Nation later today. And as soon as this discussion I had with Dr. Barbara Ransby and Mark Lamont Hill about reparations comes out, I'll definitely let you all know. I do want to do that. So we'll have a live viewing of that when it comes out. So that said, thank you all who came out. Thanks to all of those who will see this later on. We really appreciate you. Please do hit the like, share, subscribe, and hit that join button. And go on and become a member of Black Power Media and help us continue to grow. And with that, as always, like Fred Hampton used to say to you, we say, oh, how could I forget? First, you got any issues?
Put it in the comments.
Anyway, let's keep it moving. Like Fred Hampton used to say to you, we say peace if you're willing to fight for it. So peace, everybody. Catch you in the whirlwind like Garvey.
I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.